Best Power 5 conference. Let's go to the results on the field. But let's first check our formula. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, ranking the conferences based on the results from 2018. All right, if you love college football, this is your place to be for the best debate, discussion, and analysis of college football. Please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Share the videos with folks on social media, your family, and your friends. First, before we dive into the results, we've got to put them into context. We've got to put together a formula, which we have in previous off seasons, that put the results into the proper context. So at the conclusion of this series, we're not necessarily going to know that a particular conference is number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but we are going to know how they played against each other. So this only factors in non-conference results against Power 5 opponents. So no group of 5, no dominance factor included. So granted, I certainly believe that for evaluation purposes, not results-based, but evaluation purposes, it matters if Team A beat Team B 31-28 in a great game versus Team A beat Team B 49-0. Those games are different and should be evaluated as such. The result is exactly the same in the standings and in the rankings and so forth toward a championship. But in regards to evaluating the teams, therefore evaluating the conferences, that is certainly a factor. But it's not in my formula. Neither are injuries, which obviously took a toll in regards to particular players missing postseason games, and so we can make note of that. And again, no group of 5 games, although at the conclusion of the series, I will put that factor into play as well, the group of 5 games and the FCS games as well, to put the entire picture into context. But this is based just on results between the Power 5 conferences, and this is how we do it. We seed every conference. So these seedings are not based on my opinion. They're based on the actual standings in the conference. So the seedings go by, if you look at the official standings in any conference, they go first by conference record. And then if there's a game between the two teams and they tied, then the head-to-head team has the higher seed, the team that won the game on the field. And then if they didn't play and have the same record in conference, then it goes to the team that had the better overall record. So the seedings are not based on my opinion. So we've got some seedings that might be a little bit questionable, but they're at least based on results and facts, not based on opinion. For example, in the Big 12, Oklahoma State's the 9 seed. Oklahoma State finished off a season in which they won a bowl game over Missouri, had some other impressive showings, but finished 7-6. Yes, but they were 3-6 in the Big 12, and they lost the head-to-head matchups to the teams that were seeded above them. Therefore, Oklahoma State drops to a number 9 seed. Are they the 9th best team in the Big 12? Out of 10 teams, probably better than that. But we are seeding it based on the standings because that's objective. And this entire process is objective. All right. So again, we go by the seedings. And why does this matter? Shouldn't we just count up the records and say, well, the ACC went 8-18 against the other Power 4 conferences? No, because we've got to put it into context. Did really good teams beat really bad teams in another conference? What were the matchups like? Well, we know during postseason play that the matchups are generally fair or equal or balanced. Of course, the national championship game is a perfect example. The 1 seed in the ACC, Clemson, beat the 1 seed in the SEC, Alabama. So that's a win for the ACC, a loss for the SEC. This is how it's seeded, and this is how the point total is calculated. So there are 14 teams in the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 10. There are only 12 in the Pac-12 and 10 in the Big 12. Therefore, we've got to adjust the seeds. So for the 14 teams in the ACC, the Big 10, and the SEC, it's easy to make those comparisons. The 5 seed beat the 3 seed, or the 8 seed beat the 7 seed, and you go from there. I had to adjust the seeds in the Pac-12 and the Big 12 to correspond to a 14-team league. So follow me here. If you are 7 spots down as a 7 seed in the Big 10 out of 14, 7 out of 14, you're basically in the same position as a 5 seed in the Big 12. because they are 5th out of 10 teams. So these seedings had to be slightly tweaked and adjusted, and there's a formula for that that makes total mathematical sense. I'm not going to go through it right here, but for example, Washington, the 1 seed in the Pac-12, actually calculates to a 1.16 seed in a 14-team league. Oklahoma, the 1 seed in the Big 12, calculates to a 1.4 seed in the other 3 conferences in a 14-team league. So that's what we did right there. All right. So, Alabama beating Oklahoma, that's a 1 seed versus a 1 seed. They should be given more credit, therefore the SEC given more credit for that game than Alabama beating poor Louisville, who's the worst team in the ACC, is a 14 seed. Obviously, what do you do with those games? You don't just say, well, the SEC went 2-0, and the Big 12 went 0-1, and the ACC went 0-1. Well, you got to put it into context. Alabama beat one of the best teams in the country, Oklahoma, the 1 seed from the SEC against the 1 seed from the Big 12. But they beat the 14 seed, Louisville. Well, they still won the game on the field and should be given credit for that, but how much credit? Well, this is how we do it. Let's say the 1 seed beats the 3 seed from another conference. Well, because there are 14 seeds in the conferences, we awarded 14 points for every game. We started with 14 points. That's the standard. That's the baseline. If you're a 5 seed and you beat a 5 seed, you get 14 points for the winning conference, negative 14 points deducted from the losing conference. So in the case of Alabama-Louisville, that's a 1 beating a 14. That's a 13 seed difference. What do we do with that? Well, the 1 seed Alabama beats the 14 seed Louisville. That's 13 seeds different. So we take 13 points off of the 14-point total. And so Alabama and the SEC get 1 point for the win, and Louisville and the ACC deducted 1 point for the loss. It makes perfect sense because you still have to credit the win. They won the game on the field, but how much? Best team in one conference, worst team in the other conference. So it gets very little consideration right there. So that's what we did. That's our formula. We've executed it over the past few off seasons. Please check out the videos from previous off seasons and see how the conference is played. Again, we're going to cut a video and post a video on every Power 5 conference and go through the mathematical formula and let you know how they played against each other. So this is based on all fact and results on the field. And then at the end, I'm going to show you what the numbers say about how they played against each other, which is typically only about 18 to 25 games. So it's not that many games because when you think about it, anybody who missed a bowl game probably played 1 Power 5 team in the non-conference schedule. If somebody made a bowl game, well, they probably played 2. And for some teams that scheduled 2 Power 5s, well, they may have played 3. Clemson would be the outlier. Of course, they play both Texas A&M and South Carolina in the regular season. Then they played a 2-game playoff, of course, against Notre Dame, which we also count in the Power 5, along with BYU and Army. That was a judgment call. BYU, Notre Dame, and Army are in the Power 5. And then, of course, Clemson won the national championship game against Alabama. So 4 big wins for the ACC. Certainly lifted that conference. I had to make judgment calls on Notre Dame, BYU, and Army. And based on their record, based on their performance against the rest of the country, had to rank Notre Dame as a 1 seed. Of course, they went undefeated against a very difficult schedule, or at least a scheduled difficult schedule, but still a 1 seed because of the scheduling comparison to other Power 5 conference champions. Army, based on their 11-2 season, as a 5 seed because the schedule is compromised by a lot of group of 5, and then BYU at 7-6 played to an 8 seed. So that's what we do. If you've got any questions, any comments, please leave those down in the comments section. And of course, do your shopping at Amazon and use one of the links in the description section to do just that. You guys have been amazing when it comes to helping me out and supporting Mark Rogers TV. In the month of January, we had 446 clicks on those Amazon links. That doesn't take any money out of your pocket, but it contributes to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We will see you soon with our Pac-12 breakdown of results against the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12 coming up next.